Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the 5 greatest Debussy pianists. I mean, this is really a world of piano playing all its own, and quite a few fabulous pianists have managed to enter into that special world and master it for our delectation. Oh, yes, some really great stuff. There's nothing quite like Debussy's piano music. There really isn't. I mean, I adore it, and I'm sure a lot of you do too. It's so special. It's so completely chord guy. You know, it's all about sonority. It doesn't have to be fuzzy. It doesn't have to be like fuzzy, fluffy, and impressionistic. I mean, he wrote some like contrapuntal things here and there, but it has to be sonorous and gorgeous, and every chord has to matter and mean something and have a poetic effluvium of whatever. I don't want to get poetic because I just sound stupid, but Debussy does not sound stupid. He sounds marvelous. And there was nothing like it in the history of music before he started writing and his piano works. And they just need to sound special. And there are a lot of pianists, I think, who've really managed to do that. But here are the 5, I think, the big 5. You ready? Okay. First, Paul Jacobs. No one's going to mention Paul Jacobs anymore, but back in the day, he was a big deal in Debussy, and he deserves to be again. He really does. He was a tremendous pianist. Jacobs had a reputation as a modern music guy. You may have seen him in recordings of music by like Elliott Carter, that kind of stuff, really difficult things. And he was also the official pianist of the New York Philharmonic. So he appears in like all kinds of recordings that require piano. But he was a tremendous artist all by himself. And maybe it was his experience with modern music, but his Debussy it's contemporary. I mean, it has a sort of timeless modernity to it that's wonderful. And he did all the major works. He really did. So I just think it would be tragic not to mention Paul Jacobs for his devotion to Debussy. It was the one area of the solo repertoire that everybody does that he was really known for and was outstanding in. I mean, he was outstanding in a lot of things, but he made a reputation doing it. So Paul Jacobs is my first choice. Next, Zoltán Kocsis. Oh, yes, Zoltán Kocsis. Oh, my gosh, his Debussy is beyond gorgeous and exquisite. He was such a brilliant musician and, a composer himself and just someone who reveled in the joys of tinkling the ivories. And his Debussy is beautifully sonorous, but very intelligent and probing. I like the Debussy players who do not succumb to the impressionist fog school of Debussy playing, because there's so much more that you can do in his piano music with touch and articulation and implied counterpoint, even, who knows. But you need to have all of that. And you need to give the music a bit of backbone. It can't just all be a swoosh of mist. There's real substance in this music, and Kocsis understands that. His Debussy is gorgeous. So does Michelangeli, Arturo, Benedetti, Michelangeli. Oh yes, I mean, he was the iconic Debussy guy for like a bazillion years, especially his Book of Preludes, Book 1, and his Image or Estampe or one of those things. I don't know. And the Children's Corner. That was it. It was Michelangeli's Children's Corner that got me out of my desire to be a pianist, because all I wanted to play in my whole life was Children's Corner. I just loved it. I loved it. And when I was studying piano, however briefly, I actually played all of it except The Snowflakes Are Dancing, which I could never do. It was just technically beyond me at that point in my life, because it's da 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 da, and the melody is in your thumbs while you're doing these things. I just couldn't even begin to think about how to do that. I looked at it and went, but everything else I could do. And I used to drive my family crazy playing Gollywog Cakewalk over and over and over. I just loved it. I couldn't stopped doing it. And the fact that I could do it was such a joy. I could play the whole thing, and pretty well. I mean, reasonably well. It was exciting for me. It really was. Unfortunately, I bought the Michelangeli recording because I wanted to hear how it was done. I listened to it once and said, "Oh, never mind. Forget it. I'm wasting my time." Of course, he was a seasoned professional and I was a callow youth in high school, but still, I mean, I just knew that, it was a standard that I could only observe from afar, from a great distance. So Michelangeli's Debussy definitely has withstood the test of time. And it's amazing that he did as much as he did. And in the studio, because, he just never did anything. So it must have mattered to him, too. There's a guy where he gets sonorities out of the piano that make it sound entirely like an alien instrument. The chords are so well balanced. The blend of tone is just so, it's unbelievable. It really is. And so you have to hear his Debussy. You may find it, as some people do, very cold and, contrived, because he's not mannered. In terms of tempo and expression, he's actually very, very straightforward. He doesn't push and pull the music about in any great degree, but the precision, oh my God. I don't think it's cold. I just think it's amazing. So Michelangeli definitely is on my list. Then, a pianist who seems to come up all over the place. Well, no, he's not coming up all over the place, but I've had an opportunity to mention him a few times. Jean-Efflam Bavouzet. Bavouzet is really, really a terrific pianist. He's done unbelievable Haydn piano sonatas, for one thing. He's recorded a lot of stuff for Chandos, and all of it's very good. There's a guy who I don't think has ever made a bad record. He's a superb musician. And his Debussy piano music complete set has stuff that even Debussy didn't know he wrote. It's wonderful for not just the actual performances themselves, but for its completeness. You get all of the orchestral works that exist in piano arrangements. Like La Boîte à Joujou and all that stuff. He does everything. And he does it extraordinarily well. I think it's a 5-disc set, 5 or 6 discs it ran into on Chandos, and it's really, really, really fine. It was a little bit unfortunate that Bavouzet's cycle was happening at the same time that Stephen Osborne's cycle was happening on Hyperion. Stephen Osborne is an amazing pianist, and he's an amazing pianist in French music, it seems, because his Ravel is great too. But his Debussy Preludes came out and sort of swept the board. First of all, he had both books on one disc, which was always wonderful. So you could just put it on and let it go. But in general, his Debussy performances are so beautifully calibrated, fluent, and I don't even know how to describe it. The music seems to be created from within when he's playing it. They're just natural and wonderfully effortless. And the music has this, what Debussy wants. It's funny. What Debussy wants is not impressionist fog necessarily. It's flow. You notice how many pieces by Debussy involve water? There's a lot of water in Debussy. It's that fluidity that you have to capture, that sense of and that doesn't mean no rhythm. There is a very firm rhythm, quite as often as not, but it never it can never sound metronomic or metrical. You don't want to feel like you're counting bars when you're playing it. And Osborne has that wonderful fluidity. It's absolutely glorious. And so, there are my 5. And 2 of them are rather recent, actually. Some of you may wonder what happened to people like Walter Gieseking. Well, Walter Gieseking, is known as the Debussy guy. My feeling about Gieseking is that his Debussy is very good. And it was, in its day, the reference version, but it's all in mono, and it doesn't sound great today. It was not wonderfully recorded. Gieseking was known as a touch guy. He was known as the man with the fingers. And he was a wonderful Debussy pianist, but when you compare him to the best of what's available today, I just don't think it holds up the way it used to. I really don't. However much I respect it, and I do. There was also Ivan Moravec, who was a Gieseking, student, and who adores, Debussy and plays it magnificently, but he hasn't done very much. And I think for the purposes of this list, we have to choose people who've at least done the preludes and a couple other sets of piano works. I mean, in a complete way, because you want consistency over time. I mean, no one was more consistent than Moravec, but he was very, very selective in what he decided to play. So he didn't make the list. Claudio Arrau was another one who very easily could have been on this list. But Claudio Arrau could be on just about every list. He's sort of amazing that way. And I wanted to give some other really great names an opportunity to appear in these lists. Part of it, is my sense of trying to capture the universe of great performance. And for that purpose, I always try and mix it up a little bit. I mean, but he could certainly be on a list. I assume he'll pop up on some of your lists. And as I always say, please feel free to contribute your own list rather than bitch about my list. I mean, my list is not a definitive list. It's just my list. So let's see your list rather than saying, well, I'd take out this one and put in that one. And I think you should leave, or why didn't you mention? No, just give me your list. That's it. That's all you have to do. It's really, really easy in that sense. We don't need to have a disquisition on who belongs and who doesn't belong and just let's see what you think. I'm very curious to know because there are a lot of wonderful Debussy pianists that I have not mentioned because I had to choose 5. And that's the point of this. Force yourself to choose. Do the work. Make it difficult. That means your list is going to be meaningful and interesting to others who don't know this music and who are coming and looking at these lists and trying to look for ideas and to sample performances. Because, with streaming services, everybody can dip in and you can try it and see who you really like. And that's a great way to get to know the music. So thank you for participating and keep on listening, friends. Take care.